time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
I told our guys I liked our rhythm. I liked what we were doing. Let's just stick with it. Thought our guys did a lot of good things down the stretch, handling some press. They mixed up some zones against us, 1-3-1 and 3-2. We did a good job of executing against a lot of different defenses, and then we made our free throws down the stretch.
We didn't defend today. We weren't very good. When I say point guard play has to get better, it's not just the offense and who to pass it to. It's being able to defend the guy with the ball. And we really struggled there today. And then our rotations were good. We got to talk about that tonight. We'll fix it tomorrow, and we'll come out and play more to our identity tomorrow.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Thursday night where we've got a lot of good basketball to talk about. Clemson, a winner today over Boston College in the quarterfinals of the ACC in Brooklyn, 90-82. And South Carolina, a winner last night, 85-84 over Ole Miss. So the Gamecocks live to play another day in the SEC tournament in St. Louis. Tonight, the Gamecocks will take on Arkansas. Plenty more on that coming up. Bill Pollock covering the Gamecocks for us in St. Louis. Right now, he is in the postgame press conference for Georgia and Missouri. Georgia just coming away a little while ago with a win in that one. So we'll get all the details from St. Louis coming up for you in a little bit. Right now, though, let's go to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn and welcome in Will Pelagic, who was covering Clemson in the ACC tournament. And the Tigers got off to a slow start. Then they got very hot. Then they kind of had a hang on at the end, Will, but they get the W and they move forward to face Virginia tomorrow.
They certainly do. Corn, good evening, and welcome back to Brooklyn. The Tigers a 90-82 victory over Boston College, as you said. Clemson started just 2 of 11 from the field, and really it looked kind of like they didn't have their sea legs at the beginning. It was something that Brad Brownell was worried about, the fact that they were basically going to come in here and kind of have to shake off some rust. But you believe that they had good rhythm early, and he said as much in his post-game press conference when I asked him directly about the slow start. But they found their footing, 15-5 run in the middle of the half, including 8 of 8 on the field goals during that run. And you get a 25-point effort from Gabe DeVoe, 21 from Shelton Mitchell, 10 points for Amir Sims, and 12 for Marquise Reed. But the guy who really showed out to me and really impressed was A.J. Oliver. He had 9 points, a career high for him. He played just 8 minutes, but he needed to play because of the fact that both Amir Sims and David Scara had foul trouble, and the options at the 4 were extremely limited after that fact. So Clemson moves on to take on a Virginia squad who they played probably their worst game of the season against, a 61-36 loss earlier in the regular season. Virginia beating Louisville earlier today, 75-58. And I don't know about you guys, but, you know, looking at this game tomorrow, it's going to be very interesting to see if Clemson shows up better, because they're going to need to, I don't want to say put up 90 again, but they will need to score more than 36, definitely, in order to get themselves a victory against the Hoos.
Well, yeah, obviously. And Virginia plays such great defense. Where Clemson can find its offense tomorrow, can they get into a smooth offensive rhythm? Can they make those threes go down? Today, as you mentioned, DeVoe was huge. Not so great from 3, only 3 of 11, but he did finish with 25 points, as you mentioned. Mitchell, 21. When Clemson's getting that kind of scoring out of their backcourt, throw in Reed with 12. So that's 58 points from their backcourt. When Clemson's getting that kind of production from the backcourt, they've got a chance because the other guys are going to contribute. Sims had 10. Thomas had 8 and 12 rebounds. As Will mentioned, the surprise of the game for Clemson, A.J. Oliver, coming in and scoring 9 points in just 8 minutes, and that's a nice boost for them. They get 60 points from the threesome in the backcourt. I give them a chance against most anybody.
That's a need for Clemson. You got to have a ace up your sleeve like an Oliver, somebody you don't expect to contribute, and that fuels the other players. It really does, that you're getting contributions from people you don't expect. The combination of the scoring, Phil, and only 7 turnovers. That's and 20 20 or 22 from the foul line,
Mm-hmm.
and you out rebound Boston College. So that's a recipe for success. I think if I'm Clemson, I think against Virginia, I want to ugly the game up. I want the best offensive weapon for Clemson tomorrow to be the offensive rebound, because if you go one and done against Virginia, they'll carve you to pieces. So I think Clemson has to smash the boards tomorrow to have any chance against the Cavaliers.
Will, what did Brownell have to say after the game about the fact that they scored 90, which is fine? I know he can't be real happy with the fact they gave up 82. What does he think they have to do to shore up the defense against Virginia tomorrow?
I think it just comes down to basically, I don't want to say matching what Virginia does, matching the intensity, but I also think that they were very, very late today on closeouts. That was one thing that it seemed like there were always guys kind of running to the ball. And the thing about Boston College is that they've got 5 guys who can put the ball on the deck, and Virginia kind of has the same kind of problem. That's really going to be the real challenge tomorrow. Maybe you see them try to employ a little bit of a press, or they try to do a little zone or diamond or something like that. They need to show Virginia a different look than they showed in the game they played earlier this season. And the thing about Clemson is that, while Boston College had guys that were going to get theirs, in the second half, Jerome Robinson had 6 points at around the 10-minute mark. So it wasn't like they were all over the place in that game. It was just a really bad stretch of play where they took what was a 16-point lead down to around 2, about the 5:49 mark. So they can't afford a stretch like that against Virginia. They need to play more consistent and need to do it for 40 minutes in order to beat the Cavaliers.
All right, coming up on the program, we'll hear from Bill Pollock in St. Louis. 2 great games today in terms of their drama at the SEC. First, Alabama beat Texas A&M 71-70, shot at the buzzer by Colin Sexton, wins it for Alabama and kind of keeps their hopes alive for the NCAA tournament. And then a game that was completed just a little while ago, Georgia. Here we go again with Georgia. Beats Missouri 62-60. So on the one hand, this is not good for the SEC because Missouri, had it won, the fans would have been rolling into St. Louis to follow the Tigers.
Kentucky's ready to buy those tickets.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, Mark Fox, here he goes again. People talking about this being the end of the road for him. He's now won 2 games in the tournament. They're 18-14. They are a tough – it just seems like every year in the SEC tournament they are a tough out. And your boy Mayton had a big game, 21-10, to lead Georgia. And so South Carolina tonight goes up against Arkansas. The Gamecocks hoping to do some of that same magic that Georgia has going for it right now. The Gamecocks trying to win 2 games in 2 days and move on and keep their hopes for postseason play alive. The next game coming up there is LSU and Mississippi State. Back in Brooklyn, you've got Will, it should be a great crowd and a great night. It's what the ACC dreams of. You got on the one hand, you got Notre Dame and Duke. On the other hand, you got Miami and North Carolina. So the Tar Heels, the Blue Devil fans will be in there full throat. It should be a great night there.
This is the glamour session of the week, Corn. You get the 2 big blue blood programs playing in the same session, Duke and North Carolina in both of the games, and you know that there's going to be a lot of Duke representation here. There's a lot of anti-Duke representation, as there always is at this tournament, because every time Grayson Allen gets shown on the Jumbotron with some of these in-between timeout features, he gets mercilessly booed like he did every time he touched the ball at Clemson at Little John Coliseum earlier this year. But there is a lot of Duke blue in the stands. There's a lot of Carolina blue in the stands because the session ticket gets you into both games. So is a lot of intensity, but I'm sure, as is the case and has been the case over the course of this week, Notre Dame will have some great representation as well because New York, as you know, Corn, a very big Notre Dame Fighting Irish city.
Yeah, and of course, Jim Larinaga, his team is not a home team, but he's a native New Yorker, so he's bringing Miami and probably already taken the tour out in the snow for his team. So he's going to have his own personal rooting section there tonight.
All right, when we come back, we'll hear from Brad Brownell, his thoughts on the Tigers' win today. We'll also hear from Frank Martin from last night. It was late last night when that game wrapped up. Maybe you haven't heard his comments. We'll bring that to you as well. We got a whole bunch more. The Give and Go guys will be with us a little bit after 7 o'clock as well. Be right back.
Welcome back to Brooklyn in the Barclays Center. Will Pelagic here, along with Phil Kornblut and Professor Tom Hayes. This is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Clemson a 90-82 victory over Boston College, and the Tigers get back to the ACC semifinals for the first time since 2011. Coincidentally, that year they beat Boston College in the quarterfinal round, just like they did today. That year they ended up playing North Carolina in Greensboro in the semifinals and losing that game in overtime. And a chance to attend the post-game press conference featuring Brad Brownell and the leading scorer, Gabe DeVoe. Here's a little bit of that from earlier this evening.
Just a really good win by our guys. I thought we obviously we shot it well. These guys played great. I thought we showed pretty good poise. We actually didn't get off to a great start in the game, but I like the way we were playing. Even though we missed some shots early, we got down. Maybe it was 7-0. I told our guys I liked our rhythm. I liked what we were doing. Let's just stick with it. I thought we hung in there defensively and did about as good a job as you can do on Robinson and Bowman. They're just playing terrific basketball. Jimmy's done an unbelievable job with their team. They're in a really good position with how they're doing things, and you could just tell the confidence that they were playing with today that they were going to come back on us and make a fight. But thought our guys did a lot of good things down the stretch, handling some press. They mixed up some zones against us, 1-3-1 and 3-2. Did a good job of executing against a lot of different defenses, and then we made our free throws down the stretch.
Okay, questions, raise your hand. Let's get the handheld mic to you. First question to our right.
Bobby Mann, CLNS Media. Brad, you guys scored 90 today, but against Virginia, who you're on to next, 36. What's different about their defense?
What's the average of that? We'll take the average tomorrow. What's different about their defense? They just do everything really well. They're unbelievably sound. Tony obviously is as good a coach as there is in our game. I think sometimes Virginia, because they play slow on offense, they don't get enough credit for how good their players are. I think sometimes everybody gets so into their scheme, but you don't win 17 out of 18 ACC games unless you have really good players. And they're big, they're strong, they're physical at every position, they're athletic, and they're obviously very sound fundamentally. So they just do a lot of really good things. They're difficult to play against. The first time we did play them was the first game we played without Dante Grantham. So hopefully we're playing a little better than, a 2-day or 1-day prep for Virginia at Virginia without one of our best players.
To our right in the aisle.
Will Pelagic, South Carolina Radio Network. Brad, you talked earlier in the week about kind of trying to shake the rust off after not necessarily playing for a couple of days. How much of that did you notice early? I know you started 2 of 11.
I don't think it had anything to do with that. Again, these guys are going to make shots, miss shots. That's part of basketball. Again, I was pleased with how we were playing. I thought we had good practices leading in. These guys were very focused. Monday and Tuesday, we practiced extremely hard. We tapered back on Wednesday, but, we tried to use Monday and Tuesday as a way for our team to get better, and I think we did that. But a lot of credit goes to these guys next to me because of their approach. They just their approach has been great all year, handled adversity all year, and they've been extremely coachable group.
To you on the right.
Ralph Russo from AP. For Sheldon and Gabe, what was the plan against Bowman and Robinson, and how did you execute it?
Gabe?
Just try to make them make tough plays. They can shoot the ball well. Just making them make tough plays and trying to run them in transition. They played 3 games in 3 days. Knew that I have a little tired legs, so just trying to get out in transition.
DeVoe again with 25 points. Shelton Mitchell had 21. He was big in the second half, 14 of his 21 coming in the second half. And in that stretch, when Clemson was able to build back the lead after Boston College had cut it to 2 with 5:49 to play. Again, looking at some of the numbers here, guys, this is not the kind of game that they're going to play tomorrow. The game tomorrow is going to be a much more low-scoring game. And the other part of this is that Boston College doesn't defend nearly as well as UVA does. So getting 60 from that backcourt is going to be a hard chore.
Yeah, that's true. And but they're not going to score 36 like they did in that first game against Virginia. They're going to be much more offensively competitive, playing on a neutral court with a lot of confidence. And with 3 guards, you feel like they can score on anybody at any time. So I look for a much better game from Clemson against Virginia. And who knows, maybe the Tigers are going to take that next step back to the ACC championship game, which I think would be only their second championship appearance. They made it to the championship game in Charlotte back in, 2011, I think. Mm-hmm. And now they'll get maybe another shot. Obviously they get by Virginia. The one thing lacking from was it 2008 championship game. And, one thing lacking from that trophy case at Clemson is an ACC championship, a tournament championship. They've got a regular season championship, but no tournament championship. All right, we'll get back to this in a little bit. At the bottom of the hour, Bill Pollock will join us from St. Louis to update us on things there. South Carolina going out again late tonight against Arkansas after beating Ole Miss last night, scoring 85 points in the process. That's the high point mark on the year for South Carolina. And they shot the three ball very well, Pro. They had their second highest number of threes on the season in this game. They were 12 of 21, so good number there and good percentage. And, of course, Frank Booker had 6 of those. He was 6 of 12. And Justin Minaya gave him a great game, hitting 4 of 5 threes. He had 16 points. They're going to need more of that. And they've got, maybe an unexpected, very solid performance from Mike Kotsar with 14 and 5. And he made some shots last night, kind of looking like he did back in his freshman season when he was making a variety of shots, something we haven't seen from him to this point in the season.
Again, this team has a proclivity to try to see how they can come up with exotic ways to lose basketball games. You're stroking it from the three above 50%, and then you're throwing up barbecue bricks at the free throw line. You can't understand how they're stroking a shot from 19 feet 9 inches, and then they go to 15 feet at the foul line, and they brick 16 free throws last night?
19 of 34.
Yeah, they could have had a comfortable lead, and everybody relaxed in this game instead of sitting out down to the buzzer.
Yeah.
So I think Kotsar showed in the first half, at least, because he had 13 points, that he was kind of comfortable in his own skin for the first time in a long time last night.
And Silva was extremely aggressive inside. He took 20 free throws, made 13. He played 38 minutes, only got 3 fouls called in 38 minutes. He finished with 21 points and 11 rebounds. He was and some spectacular blocks on defense. He had 3 blocks, and he was showing off why he is the co-defensive player of the year in the SEC. So that was a good win for South Carolina, 17 and 15. So, in a year that has been a disappointment for the Gamecocks coming off what was the fabulous year of last year, should they win tonight and get to 18 wins, I'm thinking that would get them in the NIT. I would think that would probably do it.
Yeah.
They're probably knocking on the door right now. 17 and 16 if they lose tonight. 17 and 16, I'm not so sure. At least that will give them a winning season. But I would think an 18th win would get the NIT's attention and would probably get them a spot in that field. And they'd have to play away from home, I would think, next week with the USC women hosting first and second round games of the women's tournament. I would think the men would not have the opportunity to play at home, even though the NIT starts on a Tuesday. I guess it's feasible. They could play Tuesday. That'd give them enough time to turn the arena around for the women, unless the NCAA dictates that. Of course, the NCAA owns the NIT, but they might say, look, you can't have any other event in there the week of our tournament. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens with theirs. So we'll hear from Bill Pollock and get the backstory from him on the USC game last night and also the 2 terrific games today at the SEC tournament in St. Louis, including, of course, the loss by his beloved Missouri Tigers at the hands of the Georgia Bulldogs.
If you're a Missouri fan, stand in the hotel lobby. Arkansas person on this side, Kentucky, ticket to the highest bidder.
Yeah. Walk away a millionaire if you play your cards right. All right, we'll be back. Bill Pollock will join us from St. Louis. More from Will in Brooklyn. We'll hear from Frank Martin as well coming up.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Thursday night edition of Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes, Brian Leonard up in Brooklyn. It's Will Pelagic freezing off his little tush. And out in St. Louis, it's Bill Pollock, equally freezing off his rather large tush. By the way, check out foundersfcu.com and learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. They can save your tush from a lot of problems. Let's go out to St. Louis. Welcome in the sports director of Missouri Nets, sister network here of Sports Talk, part of the great Learfield family of Coast to Coast Radio. And so, sir, you had a couple of really good games to watch today. Sorry about your Tigers.
Yeah, well, that one was pretty interesting. The Tigers jumped out to a 10-0 lead against Georgia and ended up losing 62-60. And had a chance to win at the end with Cassius Robertson, one of their seniors, big three-point shooter, had a chance to hit the winning shot and was a little strong and missed. And this was a game that the Tigers started out, like I said, really well, and then they went almost 8 minutes and missed 16 shots. And Georgia used a 16-0 run. They took the lead, and Missouri just could never get over the hump. They tied it once. Got it close and it couldn't pull it out. And, quite frankly, I mean, it's a disappointing game because this is pretty much a home game for this team. 12,000 people here at Scott Trade Center, the majority of them cheering for Mizzou, and to come out flat in a game like this, it's disappointing. Now, they had Michael Porter Jr. come back, and there's a whole new dynamic and how did he fit into the flow of the offense. And you could tell that they just weren't in sync. And he ended up finishing 5 of 17 from the floor. So, I mean, he took a lot of shots. He took the most shots out of everyone. So here you got a guy that missed 3.5 months because of back surgery, and he's taking 17 shots in a game and only making 5 of them. So, yeah, it was just a bad game. And, maybe the silver lining for them is they got that one out of the way. Now you see what happens for the NCAA tournament, and they can, make some adjustments because Michael Porter Jr. at times looked pretty good. So, it's a big addition for this team, but yeah, they've got to work out some of the rough spots now, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you'd have some issues with a guy coming back for the first time since the first game of the season. On the other side, Mayton was dynamic for Georgia once again.
Oh, he was. He absolutely was. I mean, he controlled the game. He got to the free throw line. I mean, he got Mizzou into a lot of foul trouble. Their bigs got into foul trouble, got himself to the line. He finished with 21 points. And this was a team that held them to 9 the first time they played. So you knew they weren't going to do that 2 games in a row. You knew he was going to get his points. And he was a big difference and a big reason why this team came back and won, because they really didn't shoot the ball all that well themselves. They were 38% from field, 7 of 24 from three-point range. So it was just a game against 2 top defensive teams. But Madden certainly made his presence felt today. You could definitely see that.
All right, let's go to the first game of the day, and what a thriller it was. And Alabama playing for its tournament life, NCAA tournament life, trying to keep it alive. They pulled one out of the fire.
Yeah, they sure did. I mean, they were leading most of the way. A&M looked really flat and out of it, and you could tell that Alabama was playing for something. A&M takes the lead. Alabama comes down for the final shot. They go coast to coast, and they come away with a 71-70 win. And they really let that lead kind of slip away from them late in that game. They had control of this game. This was a game that looked like Alabama was going to run away with it. And then all of a sudden, A&M made that push, and they actually grabbed the lead. And like I said, last second at the clock expires, there goes the running layup, and that's it. Alabama moves on. Great game.
All right, last night, South Carolina, last game of the night. Gamecocks come out and showed a lot of offense. Season high 85 in beating Ole Miss, and Ole Miss hit a shot at the buzzer to make it a 1-point game. Probably upset a lot of people who had some other rooting interest in that outcome. Boy, you hate that about basketball. I mean, they can just change in a second like that. Anyway, good win for South Carolina. And what did you take away from seeing the Gamecocks last night? They shot the 3-ball well. They defended horribly. So what's your take from that as they prepare for Arkansas tonight?
Yeah, they did. They shot almost lights out. When I looked at the end, I knew they were shooting well, and then when I looked at the final stats and saw that they were 57% from 3-point range, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that good. It was really, I'll tell you what I really enjoyed was watching Chris Silva play up close, because our media section for covering Mizzou, they push us away from the floor. We're not very close. And so to see him up close, it's just amazing. He's a little rough around the edges, but I'll tell you that he is just so strong. One of the strongest players that I've seen in this conference. There were a couple times where he went up for shots and guys had the hand on the ball with him, and he just blew it past them and was able to, complete the play. So it was really good to see that. But yeah, you're right. And Frank Martin touchdown, it's in his post game. They were letting point guards just blow by them last night. He really called out point guards on his team. So you got to look for them to kind of clean that up a little bit. Arkansas, certainly likes to pressure defense. They like to run up the floor. And, if South Carolina can continue to shoot the way they did last night, I think they got a real strong chance of moving on.
When you take a look at a guy like Silva and see, Bill, if you see the same thing, he gets a lot of fouls called on him in the regular season. But it seems that officials do not want to gauge how the game is going to go when you go to postseason, even in conference tournament play. Can you see a little bit more physicality being let go in this tournament so far?
You know what? I have seen that, with the exception of this Mizzou-Georgia game that we just watched. It was a closely called game on both sides. Mizzou's big, and a lot of stuff down low. Like I said, Mizzou had foul trouble. They had Kevin Puryear who fouled out. They had a couple of other guys. Of their 5 starters, they had 18 fouls between the 5 of them. And they were all in foul trouble, 3 or more fouls. And the same thing with Georgia in terms of, number of fouls. And then they had 17 of them. Nobody really in a lot of foul trouble. But this game was the first one that was called close, and they really watched the chippiness. But that was kind of against the grain, because they've been letting teams play up until that point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. Because like I said, Silva's game, he's a little rough around the edges. But if they let him play, that can be a big difference maker tonight.
81-65, Arkansas beat South Carolina in Fayetteville at about the midway point of the SEC season. Now, just a little bit past that, it was the 11th game for both teams. South Carolina was in the midst of its losing streak, I believe, when they were playing in that game. And it was a relatively close game until about 6 minutes to go. We'll hear from Frank Martin after the break, Bill. But in talking about it last night, I got the feeling from him that he believes they can beat Arkansas, that they didn't play their best, and they're not fearful. I mean, they're respectful, but not fearful of Arkansas tonight.
No, you're absolutely right. And you may play that clip of he was asked the question. I can't remember how it was worded, but he said, hey, we didn't go in there and just, flub that game up. He said, we were down 6 late in the second half and just, kind of lost the dogfight there. So, yeah, he by no means does he think that this team is going to, be overwhelmed by Arkansas. I mean, he was not very happy with the way that his team played last night. I mean, listen, I think as fans and as people covering the game, you see a win as a win and you take it and you correct it. But that's not Frank Martin, though. He was, I would almost say, on the line of disgusted with the way that his team plays. But that's great, though. I mean, you want that from your coach. So,
well, he hates it when he hates it when they stink on defense. I mean, he really. Yeah, I'm sure he loved the 85 points, but the 84. And they won, but he just hates it when they play terrible on D. We will catch back up with you a little bit later on.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you. Bill Pollock at the SEC tournament in St. Louis. In that first meeting in Arkansas, I mean, the Gamecocks got 4 points from Frank Booker. He only took 3 shots. So he should do more than that tonight. He should take more shots. He seems to be wanting to take more shots. Silva in that game only played 27 minutes. And you know what? He did not pick up a foul in that game. He played the Arkansas game and did not pick up a foul. Only 8 points, though.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Did you know that 2.5 million children and adults suffer traumatic brain injuries annually? March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. To learn more and to help the Brain Injury Alliance research, educate, and advocate for survivors of brain injury, please visit www.biaofsc.com. All right, Frank Martin, last night, late after the Gamecocks knocked off Ole Miss to stay alive in the SEC tournament to move on to face Arkansas. Here are his comments, some of them from his press conference last night.
Just it's that time of year where whether I'm happy or sad or good mood, bad mood, it's all irrelevant. It's about surviving and advancing. Who you are as a team is already in place. The identity of your team's in place. We didn't defend today. We weren't very good. When I say point guard play has to get better, it's not just offense and who to pass it to. It's being able to defend the guy with the ball. And we really struggled there today. And then our rotations were good. We got to talk about that tonight. We'll fix it tomorrow, and we'll come out and play more to our identity tomorrow.
Parrish Hall for Daily Journal in Tupelo. Frank, could you talk about your team's three-point shooting? What did you think of the ball movement and passing, and what did you think of what you guys were seeing defensively from Ole Miss?
Yeah, Ole Miss played that 2-3 zone the majority of the game, and I thought our passing was good. I thought our execution against the zone was good. We just, offensively, we got a lot of young guys, and they don't understand yet how to screen and cut and the strength and the speed that you got to do all those things. I don't care if we've played 30 games. Ole Miss's guys have played 130 games. So our guys aren't as revved up as some of their older guys that have played more college games or physically mature enough yet. By them playing that zone, it allowed our guys to be a little more comfortable with their passes and stuff. I said before the year that this team, I had multiple shooters on this team. I had the chance to be the best shooting team that I've coached. We've showed that at times during the year. We've had multiple guys make like 9 guys make multiple 3 in games. Our problem is that we're very inconsistent with our passing. Our passing is as good as it needs to be, and I thought we didn't defend anybody today, but I thought our passing was better today.
Hands up, other questions? Let's go right to the front row here.
Yeah, Frank, you talked about defending the ball and the issues with that today. Obviously, tomorrow, facing those 2 guards in Macon and Barford, you've seen that challenge before. A performance like today with you guys, that would make it even more difficult, obviously. You talked about addressing that tonight. How important is that the main kind of key tomorrow, keeping those guys in front?
I'd say. It's we like ball screens didn't hurt us today. They hurt us on some we call horns, ball screen action in the first half, but that was our big not taking care of his responsibility. We made the adjustment and that went away. We just couldn't. Our point guards could not guard their point guards off the bounce. It's like they didn't have to run off; they just drive us. And we got to be better there tomorrow. Absolutely better. Those 2 guys are dynamic. Those 2 guys are real good. Barford and Macon are real good, and they have the unique ability of being hard shot makers. So if you get them on a night where they got it going, not only are they going to go make the easy shots, they're going to make the hard shots. And then the big kid inside, he's ridiculous right now. How good that kid's playing. His name escapes me right now. Gafford. But we played them before. We went in their building. It was a 6-point game with 8 to go or something like that. We were in the fight. It's not like we went in there and kind of tried to hold on for dear life. No, we were in the fight. And there was a run there with about 8 minutes to go that made it into a 12-point game or so. And then we really never threatened again. But we'll play more to our identity tomorrow. I hope it's good enough. I think our guys will play a lot better tomorrow, especially defensively.
Question on the front row.
Hey, Coach. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. You guys had, I think Arkansas had scored y'all 26-11 on turnovers, off turnovers in that game. What do you guys have to do to clean that up?
Yeah, it's. I just said this on TV. Our turnovers were not against their press. Our turnovers were just passing the ball point to wing or wing to point. Those are our turnovers. Guys dribbling the ball. Arkansas, Mike does an incredible job. If you dribble the ball to a bad place, they just attack you. And that's what we did. We struggled passing the ball point to wing, wing to point. So anytime you turn it over, passing the ball point to wing to point, it's a layup for them. It's a track meet. They're too good, too fast at all 5 spots. So it's going to be a layup, and that's what we did. It wasn't that they doubled us in the back court and we tried to throw out and they stole it. It was just simple basketball plays that we struggled with, and we got to be a lot better there.
All right, Frank Martin, that brings up a good point. Yeah, the turnovers coming from the back court usually leads to easy layups on the other end. So they've got to be good and protective of the basketball from that standpoint. And again, Silva has got to stay out of foul trouble. If he can stay aggressive like he was last night and get those good looks inside, they fed him and he got good position inside, and then he just used his body to create a lot of funny-looking shots, but he drew a lot of fouls. Now he's got to make the free throws. So if the Gamecocks can keep the turnovers to a minimum, shoot it decently, make a high percentage of free throws, keep Silva out of foul trouble, not get killed on the boards, I think they got a chance.
Well, the other point that he failed to make is a lot of those turnovers also against Arkansas were Kotsar and Silva having the propensity to bring the ball down once they catch it in the post. You bring that ball down, it's like just showing your wallet to a pickpocket. Arkansas just take it out of your hands and go the other way, and they did that on several occasions, especially against Silva, who tries to gather himself to make a great leap, but he tends to bring the ball down when he does that. You can't do that against Arkansas.
All right, let me hit a couple of recruiting notes before we hit the top of the hour break, and then back to New York with Will and also our buddies from our Give and Go segment here on Sports Talk. Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas will be joining us. USC going after another top defensive lineman in North Carolina. Of course, they got Rick Sandage in the 2018 class. Now it's defensive end Savion Jackson of Clayton. Made his third visit to USC Saturday to watch spring practice, and he said USC is definitely a strong interest. He loves the coaching staff, Thompson, Peterson, really likes Muschamp, enjoyed watching the first day in pads, and he's a defensive end who can play really a number of different positions, and that's fine with him. And he's already scheduled his official visits for June 2nd with USC. He's trying to get some others. Other schools, he said, recruiting him hard are NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. Plans to commit sometime between August and November with no leader. 54 tackles, 9 sacks last year. Offensive lineman Wayna Morris of Loganville, Georgia, announced a final 2 of Auburn and Tennessee. Clemson and USC are among his offers. Defensive back Jamie Robinson of Cordele, Georgia, has set an official to USC for June 3rd, according to Hale McGranahan of SEC Country. Clemson offered offensive lineman Will Putnam of Tampa. USC has also offered place kicker Ryan Fitzgerald, who has strong USC interest, was offered by Georgia State. Basketball, Clemson target 6'3" Trey McGowans of Hargrave Prep in Virginia was scheduled to visit St. John's yesterday. I'm assuming that visit took place. Back to football, quarterback Tayshaun Fomachan of Avon, Connecticut, was at USC today or was scheduled to be at USC today, again, assuming he made that visit, and he is scheduled to be at Clemson tomorrow. All right, top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll have our Give and Go guys with us. Will rejoin us from Brooklyn, and we will have other good things coming your way, including comments from USC linebackers coach Coleman Hutzler about his group in spring practice. Stay tuned.